Alrighty. Howdy, folks. My name is Eric, and this is a Dell Latitude 7230 Rugged Extreme tablet. There are reviews of this device online already, and I do not intend to reiterate that which has already been said here. Instead, I want to show you a bit more of how I am personally using this device and how I basically make it mine and have customized it. The primary thing that I have done is install Debian Linux. This is running the GNOME desktop interface, and if I pull up something other than a purple screen, we can kind of see a bit better. I just went with GNOME because it is pretty easy to install, it gets things up and running right away, and it has a built-in support for a mobile interface. Basically, I mean it has auto-rotate, which is hard to see on camera, as I'm seeing. As you can see, it rotates. That's why GNOME. I think KDE also has a pretty good mobile interface, and I think the KDE mobile interface would probably be more convenient to use as a tablet. This still very much so feels like a laptop or a desktop, even when in this mobile mode. So perhaps KDE, specifically the mobile version, would be more convenient, but I don't just use this as a tablet. I actually also use it as a laptop. So it has a also very thick and heavy keyboard attachment that I can plug in like this, and now it's a laptop. It responds when I close the lid, which I don't want to do because I don't want to have to log back in, because typing my password on this tablet interface is a little bit long, which is one of the things that makes it a little bit inconvenient to use this in the tablet mode. I could use a less secure password, but of course that's not a desirable thing to be doing. That is actually kind of a nice thing about this too, when you think about it. You know, if you're using your typical Android-based or iPhone, not iPhone, what do they call them? An iPad tablet, the passwords that you can use on those kinds of devices are a little bit limited, typically only numbers. Whereas on this, you can use numbers, letters, symbols, etc. So it's much more secure, but a little bit inconvenient, which is kind of always the trade-off. The big thing you'll probably notice about this device is just how thick it is. It is thick, it is heavy, you can drop it from 4 feet and spray it with a hose. It is a sturdy device. And the reason that I wanted that is, well, despite what you may, the impression you may get from watching me on these videos, I actually have been outside, and I actually like it there. So I wanted to bring all of this fun stuff that I have been doing outside. And so this device allows me to do that. I can put this in a backpack and go hiking in the mountains or at the Outer Banks in the sand dunes, and I can pull this thing out in the middle of the woods and turn it on. I don't need to worry if it's raining. It can get wet, I can drop it, it can get cold, it can get hot, and this thing will pretty much be okay. It is IPX65 rated. So it's great for when I go camping or backpacking or anything like that. Hence why I wanted the rugged interface. And I was kind of hoping that with this, there are some features about this that are kind of cool. I was hoping with this that I would stop carrying around a smartphone. And I can kind of do that, but not all the way just yet. Let me explain. First of all, there are a number of interesting features to this device. So it's a tablet, but it has a bunch of ports, like this RJ45 Ethernet port, which probably is, there you go, you can see that well. So it's really neat to be able, I have a server right over there. It's convenient to be able to plug a Ethernet cable into this and get direct access to my servers. Or if I go to a remote place and need the same thing, which has never happened, but could, it's very convenient to do that. It also has a AT&T mobile broadband internet connection. We can see that actually right under, I think it's this battery. Batteries are hot swappable, so I'm able to actually take this battery out. It's going to be kind of difficult to see on the camera due to some of the lighting, but the SIM card goes right up there. I have an AT&T SIM card It's right in there. It's hard to see because it's all black. But point being, I've taken out one of the batteries and this thing is still running. Put it back in. Backwards. Lock it into place. And that's actually kind of great. So there are 2 of those batteries in the back, and I can actually order separate ones and a standalone charging unit. I have not done this yet because this thing has already been kind of expensive, but which is one of the main downsides. This thing's quite expensive. It's about the same price as a MacBook Pro. But yeah, I can get extra batteries for it, have them charging in the background, and then as soon as the batteries on the device that I'm currently using get low, I can just hot swap them out. I don't even have to reboot the computer. You should reboot your computer every so often, but you don't have to just then. So that's great. I was going to say something else about this. Yes, that mobile broadband card actually has a phone number. So there are some Linux applications I can install on this, Modem Manager and Modem Manager GUI in particular, that actually allow me to see SMS messages and potentially even make phone calls from this. I have installed those and I have tried that and I have not gotten success just yet. It's theoretically possible to get phone calls and text messages on this device, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked just yet. I would be very curious to plug in the T-Mobile mobile broadband card that I have in my old iPhone. I know that I can get text messages on that, of course, and phone calls. It's a phone. But if I plugged that SIM card into this device, I wonder if I could get phone calls and text messages on that phone number instead. Maybe AT&T has explicitly, maybe they have to give a phone number with the SIM card, but they just say, don't enable texting or calls, and that's why I'm not receiving anything, but I'm not really sure. Theoretically possible, though, and that's pretty neat. It also has GPS, a built-in GPS unit, and it's quite accurate. When you get it on its own, it's quite accurate, like down to feet. That being said, when I use the Maps application that comes, wow, that was a ball. When I use the Maps application, which is now shining in your face, it's not gonna, let me turn down the bright. Isn't that better? Look at that. Yes, when I use this Maps application, it will give me a pretty good ballpark of where I am. At this time, actually, it's not even in the same state as me, it would seem. It usually puts me in Atlanta, Georgia when it does. But no, I don't. Yep, it thinks I'm in Atlanta. I'm not in Atlanta. And that's kind of the thing. I think it's using the AT&T mobile broadband to get its GPS coordinates on the map instead of the actual GPS unit, which is kind of disappointing. Maybe there's a way that I can change that. I don't know. And for using this with navigation, 2 things with that. First of all, I can Bluetooth connect this to my car, and it works like a media device. I can play music on it. I can have the map up. That's pretty neat. I'll have to show that another time. But yeah, so the map, the actual GPS coordinate of where it thinks I am isn't. It's usually pretty accurate unless it's putting me in Atlanta. But when it's not accurate, or even when it is, it doesn't really update in the way that like Apple Maps does. Like I can plug a route into this and say, get me from here to here, and it will give me all of the steps. But I would have to manually click them as I am going, which if you're on a highway can be, somewhat dangerous, especially when they're giving you extremely detailed directions and you will, you're going to make 5 turns and then want to update your map. It's not the most convenient. Maybe this would be better if, you had a passenger, which I usually don't. So doesn't help me. But yeah, cool. Another sad thing about this, very sad, is that it has 2 cameras, a front-facing camera and a rear-facing camera. And unfortunately, these are Intel's IPU6 cameras, which are not supported in the Linux version that I'm using, that is Debian Bookworm. And I believe the kernel version there is 6.10, and I've read online that version 6.11 does support IPU6 out of the box. So I am hopeful that in the next update of Debian, I will get my cameras working on this. Until then, though, I can plug in an external camera. And this is the external camera that I have typically been using. This is a Canon EOS R6 Mark II. It is a very, very nice professional camera. And so, you know, you can't have the built-in ones, why not have a really nice one instead? Given what I want to do in bringing it outside, you know, it's a weatherproof camera. It is meant for going outdoors and things like that. Perhaps a GoPro would have been better for my choice, for my needs, but you know, that's okay. I quite like the combo of Canon and Dell. It seems like a neat, I don't know. I also like, you know, DSLR style. This is actually a mirrorless, but these kind of cameras, they're a lot nicer. They totally get out of your way. It's fully manual. You have total control over all aspects of the camera. I like that better than, you know, a GoPro, but it's so much more convenient to use a GoPro, I have to admit. Anyway, I am going to talk about this camera in a separate thread and in a separate video. I'll talk more about the threads at the end of this video. Basically, all I do is take a USB connection and plug that into this. And here we get to another interesting thing about this device. A lot of modern devices like this camera, for instance, or actually even the watch that I'm using, are intended to be used with a smartphone, a smart device, typically an iPhone. And that's pretty cool. You can connect these devices with Bluetooth, and I can actually do that on this Linux tablet. I can just use Bluetooth to connect to all of these things, including my car, as I've mentioned. The problem is a lot of the devices on the other side, rather than just having some interface for you to work with, it's expecting you to be using a proprietary app, and often that app will only run on Android or iOS. You can emulate an Android smartphone on this, and then potentially use that to connect to these devices so that you can use those proprietary apps. But I like open source stuff. I don't like proprietary apps. I don't want to use the Canon Connect app when I am getting the features out of this camera. There are several. I'll mention them in the other thread. But so we can kind of get halfway there with this device. We can get basically connected, and for the most part, oftentimes, you know, some fundamental features will be available, some raw features. But oftentimes there's a lot that's hidden behind that app that you're supposed to download that's going to share all of your data with the company, of course. There are some reverse engineering projects, for things like that. So reverse engineering Garmin Connect for this watch, or reverse engineering Canon Connect for the camera. And from what I've seen, those projects actually look pretty good, like viable options for what I want here. I have not implemented those yet, and I will be doing that in the future. Before I get into that, let me just finish off by saying what I am doing with this device. You know, aside from doing, you know, my usual software engineering videos, I do a little bit of gaming. I play Mind Test, which is not a particularly intensive game. I have not installed Steam on this, though if I did, I imagine I would be able to play something, maybe Civilization, maybe Counter-Strike, God of War, probably not. It has a integrated Intel video processor unit, which is not really up to the task. But I do have two 4K monitors here in my apartment, one in front of me that I'm looking at right now, and one over there that I actually will show you a projection of later. And it is able to project, if I plug them in USB or HDMI or whatever, it's able to project onto two 4K monitors without lag. This is a pretty powerful computer. It performs about on par with a MacBook Pro. Keep in mind that the last MacBook Pro that I used was, I think, their last Intel version. The M1, M2, whatever M they're on at this point, has some interesting integrations between, video units and RAM and the processor that give it boosts that, Intel machines don't have. This does not have that. But it does perform perfectly fine as a daily driving software development platform. I also have a desktop that I use, but I would be perfectly happy doing engineering on this all the time. It's great. Now, I'm going to switch over to show you this. So, wrong tab. So, this is my discourse website, discourse.eom.dev. I plug it in as many videos as I possibly can. And this video that I am filming is going to live right here between overview and specs. Once I'm done streaming and recording and all of that lovely stuff, I am going to post it right here. And in this thread, I have a bit more details about, the specific configuration I have for this device, a list of all the accessories. I showed you the keyboard. I didn't really show you there's a stylus, an active stylus. It's pretty good, actually. It's quite accurate. I'm able to handwrite notes on it if I want to, though I have not really had an occasion to do that just yet. So, yeah, I've written a more substantial review here talking about how I've personalized the device and also more details about the performance. And I also tell a story about how I actually had to have this thing repaired, and that was kind of a unpleasant experience, but in the end, Dell helped me out and got everything back up and running. Feels brand new after that repair, and it was, just to put it briefly, minor cosmetic damage, had a technician come to repair it. Technician caused substantial technical damage to the device to where, the HDMI port is right here, and the cover that was around the HDMI port was completely missing, thus exposing the motherboard through a hole. And this is supposed to be something you can spray with a hose. So yeah, I had it sent into the factory, and now it is good as new. If they had pulled a brand new one off the shelf and shipped it to me, I would not have noticed. So they actually may have done that. Point being, I'm very happy at the end of that to have a really great device still. Yes, so the video is going to live here on Discourse. You are welcome to post in this thread. You can ask me questions about this device. You can offer me tips about how I might better use it. And I forgot to talk about something which I'm going to backtrack to. But before I do that, I'll finish my thought here. This post is the first post I am making in a new category on this Discourse server. It is the hardware category. And the purpose of this category is basically, what you're seeing here in this video. There are reviews for products online already. So here we should talk about how we are tailoring these products to our personal needs. Not interesting to have yet another video that says, this is an IP65 rated laptop, let's drop it. It's much more interesting to say that I actually use this, and here's how, here's what I've enjoyed, here's what I have not. So you are welcome to tell me about the devices you use in this category as well. You can just sign in with Google and create threads here about your personal devices. Feel free to do that. I just said there was something I wanted to go back to. Oh yeah. At the end of the day, what I want to do with this, and what you've probably noticed from some of my previous videos, is live streaming. I want to, as I said, take this camera, plug it in via USB to this tablet, and I want to be able to go out in the world and host a live stream. Since this has an AT&T mobile broadband connection that, as far as I have tested, has been pretty reliable, I should be able to host a live stream using open broadcast software or studio or whatever that thing's called, OBS, just like this. Open it up, hit stream, and just as I am doing now from my desktop in the comfort of my apartment, I should be able to do exactly this in downtown Raleigh or, elsewhere, out in the woods. That's the goal. So as I continue to use this device and learn about it and develop it, I will talk about it in this thread here, which I will link in the video description on YouTube, that is. And I think that's about all I've got to say. I don't see anything in the chat, and I can see that I have no viewers, so that's all good. I usually get more later anyway. That's okay. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that was a useful excursion into a device that I own. Again, I'll be posting more things like this about more devices, and you're welcome to ask follow-up questions in the comments and on this thread. So thank you very much for joining, and toodaloo.